Israeli strikes in Lebanon have killed a further 7 people as the international community warns of an escalation of violence. Former captives and relatives of Hamas hostages are urging the International Criminal Court to hunt down and prosecute the group's militant leaders. At least 1 person has been killed and more than 22 injured in a shooting during the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl parade celebrations. Extensive Israeli airstrikes in southern Lebanon, which left 7 people dead, including 2 children, have raised fears of a wider regional conflict. The strikes were reportedly in response to a Hezbollah rocket attack on an army base in northern Israel hours earlier. Hezbollah fighters say that by keeping Israel's northern front active, it is helping to reduce pressure on Hamas in Gaza. The two sides have exchanged fire almost every day along the Lebanon border since the war between Israel and Hamas began on the 7th of October. In Gaza, Palestinians say Israel has ordered thousands of displaced people in the town of Khan Yunis to evacuate the largest hospital in southern Gaza. A video shared by medics showed people leaving. Patients and medical staff are allowed to stay. It appears to be part of wider preparations ahead of a threatened ground offensive targeting Hamas strongholds in the nearby city of Rafah. There has been a chorus of international warnings of a, quote, slaughter of civilians and calls for Israel to resist, fearing that children will suffer the most.
So when the attack comes, you're going to have the greatest impact on the most vulnerable by definition. So the impact will be direct. Many children will be killed. The hospital services and medical services are already massively depleted. They can't cope with the situation it is.
In the meantime, the fate of those in Rafah depend on talks in Cairo on a Qatari brokered plan to halt the fighting. However, the latest reports say they have stalled over Hamas sticking to its, quote, delusional demands, says Israel.
Bring them home now!
Former captives and relatives of hostages held since the 7th of October attack by Hamas in southern Israel are visiting the Hague's International Criminal Court to urge prosecutors to charge and seek the arrest of the leaders of the militant group. Their complaint, spearheaded by the Hostage and Missing Families Forum, calls for the ICC to prosecute Hamas's leaders for genocide, war crimes and crimes against humanity.
We're hoping for justice. After October 7, we feel that there is no justice. The Hamas people, they hurt us. They murder us. They kidnap us. They raped us. We're here to make a justice.
I do believe that if we don't stop this kind of evil, it will expand and it will get to any place, to every place. So first and, at the top is bringing justice, but more of that, bringing to people the notion that this kind of thing actually exists. People are denying the atrocities that were done there.
South Africa is currently accusing Israel of being in, quote, violation of its obligations under the Genocide Convention, which Israel vehemently denies. That case is taking place at the International Court of Justice. It was supposed to be a celebration for the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl winners, but a shooting turned it into a tragedy. 1 person died and more than 22 people were shot at the end of the parade. 8 children were among the wounded. The gunfire caused the watching crowd, including the city's mayor and his family members, to run for cover.
We became part of a statistic of too many Americans, those who have experienced or been part of or connected to a mass shooting. That is something that I hope we all recognize is highly problematic for all of us.
Police have detained 3 suspects in connection to the shooting. Investigations are still underway to discover a motive. Hospitals say they are treating not only gunshot wounds, but also people who had suffered other injuries in the sudden stampede that the shooting caused. In a statement, the Kansas City Chiefs said all of its players, coaches and staff, as well as their family members, are safe and accounted for. The shooting was at least the 48th mass shooting in the United States so far this year, according to the Gun Violence Archive.
Three people, including a child and a pregnant woman, were killed in the latest Russian strikes in Donetsk, Ukraine's interior minister said. 12 others were injured when missiles hit a hospital and homes in the city of Selidov. Ukraine's infrastructure has also been targeted. Authorities in Kharkiv region say they were able to prevent oil from getting into drinking water supplies after a storage depot was bombed. Officials are also warning Russia has stepped up its assaults.
Можемо зазначити, що ворог не зменшив обертів, продовжує тероризувати цивільне населення правого берега, продовжує штурмові дії на лівому березі і цього разу наростив свою кількість спроб аж до 5. Тобто очевидним є те, що не маючи успіху, вони все одно продовжують штурмові дії.
With Russian attacks intensifying, Ukrainian volunteers have set up underground shelters for soldiers in frontline towns in the Donetsk Oblast. Ukraine is seeking to maintain morale as its forces endure a sustained Russian push. The UK's foreign minister is also striving to shore up support among Kyiv's regional allies. David Cameron's visit to Bulgaria is aimed at boosting military production for Ukraine.
In the second successful operation this month against a Russian warship operating in the Black Sea, Ukraine claims to have sunk a Russian landing ship in its latest drone attack off the coast of Crimea. Ukraine's military intelligence released this, showing naval drones approaching the large landing ship Cesar Kunikov, the ship that can carry 87 crew members and was active in the conflicts in Syria, Georgia and Ukraine, Ukraine's military intelligence said. Video released on social media showed a plume of smoke rising from a ship said to be in the Black Sea, and there were reports in local Russian media of a search and rescue operation using helicopters underway over the water. Ukraine's military said that the attack had been carried out with Magura V-5, the same naval drone that was used in striking the Russian warship Ivanovets on the 1st of February. According to the Spetstechno expert, Ukrainian state-owned foreign trade enterprise, measuring 5.5 meters in length and 1.5 meters in width, it exhibits a cruising speed of almost 41 kilometers per hour, a maximum speed of almost 78 kilometers per hour, and an operational range extending up to approximately 833 kilometers. This maritime drone has a payload capacity of 320 kilos of explosives. The destruction of Cesar Kunikov is the latest in a series of Ukrainian drone and missile strikes against Russian ships and naval facilities that have helped break Moscow's blockade of the Black Sea.
Angelos Michaelidis is a gay single parent. He had 2 daughters in the United States with a surrogate mother. The 53-year-old doctor now lives in Athens. The bill allowing the marriage of same-sex couples that will be voted in Parliament on Thursday will change his family's life.
Μόλις ψηφιστεί ο νόμος θα εγγράψω τα παιδιά μου στο ληξιαρχείο, οπότε θα είναι ορατά για την πολιτεία. Θα έχουν άμκα, ιατροφαρμακευτική περίθαλψη, δωρεάν, όπως όλα τα παιδιά. Θα μπορώ να ησυχάσω ότι δεν χρειάζεται να δουλεύω το πρωί ως το βράδυ για να τα εγγράψω σε ένα ιδιωτικό σχολείο, αλλά μπορώ να τα εγγράψω σε ένα δημόσιο σχολείο.
Several MPs have reservations about the possibility of same-sex couples adopting children, but the government argues that the bill will restore an injustice that has been in place for many years. Professor of Constitutional Law Lina Papadopoulos has drafted the bill.
Υπάρχουν πάρα πολλά παιδιά που μεγαλώνουν με 2 μαμάδες ή με 2 μπαμπάδες. Αυτά τα παιδιά στο σπίτι τους, όταν βγαίνουν έξω βόλτα, όταν πάνε να παίξουν μπάσκετ, όταν χτύπα ξύλο πάνε στο νοσοκομείο, έχουν δίπλα τους τις δύο μαμάδες τους. Έρχεται η πολιτεία και τους παίρνει τη μία μαμά, τους τη στερεί, την αφαιρεί από τα έγγραφά τους και τους λέει δεν έχετε δεύτερη μαμά. Τα παιδιά αυτά γνωρίζουν ότι έχουν δεύτερη μαμά. Το ξέρουν, το ζουνε κάθε μέρα. Άρα λοιπόν το πρώτο και πολύ σημαντικό είναι ότι αυτά τα παιδιά πια δεν θα στερούνται εξαιτίας της πολιτείας και εξαιτίας μιας κρατικής απόφασης τον δεύτερο γονιό τους.
Far-right parties and the Orthodox Church strongly opposed the bill.
Με ομόφυλα ζευγάρια δεν καταγράφουν.
Με την υπερψήφιση του νομοσχεδίου, η Ελλάδα γίνεται η 16η χώρα μέλος της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης που επιτρέπει στα ομόφυλα ζευγάρια να παντρευτούν με πολιτικό γάμο. Για τη ΛΟΑΤΚΙ πλάς κοινότητα αυτή είναι μια σημαντική νίκη και μια στιγμή που περίμενε εδώ και πολλά χρόνια. Όμως το σημαντικότερο είναι πως επιτέλους κατοχυρώνονται τα δικαιώματα των παιδιών των ομόφυλων ζευγαριών που μέχρι σήμερα για το κράτος ήταν περίπου αόρατα. Από την Αθήνα για το Euronews, Απόστολος Τάικος.
Mexican animal rights activists gathered on Wednesday to stage a protest against bullfighting on the steps of Mexico City's Congress. It comes only hours after a judge denied yet another request for the suspension of bullfights in the Plaza Mexico arena. Fans and animal rights defenders are locked in battle over the return of the activity after an 18-month suspension. Animal rights groups are now growing in support in Mexico's capital, while outside it remains popular.